This point here is where a legend was born. They're down 13 points with 3 minutes to go. This is where a legend was born. Drives in on Kaylee Heckle, passes it in. There's a miss, then she goes and one. Realistically, should have got the assist there. Comes across, down 6, fading right, boom. 3-point game, 49 seconds to go.
23 seconds to go, down 2 points, and she pulls up from Caitlin Clark range like it's nothing. That shot right there might have just changed everything we thought we knew about the 2028 WNBA draft class. Because while everyone's been focused on Juju Watkins and the established stars, a 19-year-old Canadian just announced herself in the most dramatic way possible. Silas Swords dropped a performance against UConn that has people using words they haven't used since Caitlin Clark's COVID season heroics. And when you're getting those comparisons, when college sports media is literally calling you the Canadian Caitlin Clark, you've done something special. But here's what makes this different from every other overhyped prospect we see. This wasn't just about the stats or the highlight reel shots. This was about doing it when it mattered most, against one of the best programs in the country, while wearing a face mask, and nearly pulling off a comeback that shouldn't have been possible.
The star-making performance from her. We might have seen a star-making performance in a loss from Silas Swords. And Silas Swords last year was one of the best freshmen in the nation. I'll say one of the best, because I don't know if I'm not going to go out there and say she was Michaela Blake's good, Joyce Edwards good, or what you call it, or Sarah Strong good. But I'm going to be honest.
Let's establish the context here, because this matters. Silas Swords was already one of the best freshmen in the nation last season. Not Michaela Blake's good, not Joyce Edwards level, and definitely not in the conversation with Juju Watkins or Sarah Strong. She was talented, sure, a solid player on a Michigan team that went toe-to-toe with South Carolina in her very first college game, where she dropped 26 points. But she was still in that second tier of elite freshmen. Fast forward to this season, and something has shifted. Michigan found themselves down 17 to 20 points in the first half against UConn. Against UConn, you don't come back from that kind of deficit against a program like that. Except Swords apparently didn't get the memo. Her first bucket of the game, a pull-up 3 while wearing a face mask. Just casual. Just announcing that she was about to take over.
Went in the Big Ten tournament last year. But yeah, comes in, steps into it, boom. And she's just very unorthodox with how she scores in general. When she's not shooting the 3, she's just unorthodox. But again, their comeback, a lot of it was off the back of Silas Swords. And again, it's just...
Now watch this sequence carefully, because this is where legends get made. They're down 13 points, with 3 minutes to go. Swords drives on Kaylee Heckle, passes it inside. There's a miss, and she just decides she's the one who's going to will this team back. She comes off a screen, fading right, drains it. 3-point game with 49 seconds left. They go down and score. She comes back, another screen, fading right again. 2-point game with 22 seconds remaining. At this point, UConn knows exactly what's coming. They write an inbound play specifically to lock her down. She comes off a flare screen, goes left instead, pulls up from deep, and buries it. That's the shot everyone's talking about. That's the moment that has people rewatching Caitlin Clark's performance against Michigan from the COVID season.
You've got College Sports Only calling her the Canadian Caitlin Clark. Calling her the Canadian Caitlin Clark. Like, that's all people are talking about. Silas Swords pulled up like Caitlin Clark. Really hate Michigan. Didn't be UConn. AZ Foot's a great player. AZ Foot's really fucking good. Lisa Bluer said Michigan women's basketball team gave Caitlin Clark a gift following the game. They all wrote Caitlin signed. That's obviously it's after the game. But it reminds me of this game here. Like, I don't really care. Like, she was unbelievable. But it just reminds me of this, where they're down 12, whatever, 6 minutes to go. And Caitlin Clark just goes, bang. Let me just pull. Maybe what Silas Swords did was not from quite as deep. Maybe it's not from... Because this is the first time I remember being like, holy shit, who is this Caitlin Clark?
Let me take you back to that Caitlin Clark game, because the parallel is genuinely striking. Iowa had 6 players available during COVID restrictions. They're down 12 points with 6 minutes to go against Michigan. And Caitlin Clark just goes supernova. She's pulling up from distances that shouldn't be legal, hitting shots that have no business going in, single-handedly dragging her team back into a game they have no right winning. They still lost, but that performance is what made people realize they were watching something different. Sound familiar? Because that's exactly what happened with Swords against UConn. The unorthodox scoring ability, the willingness to take and make impossible shots in crunch time, the complete disregard for the situation or the opponent. Even the fact that both performances came in losses doesn't matter. These are the games that separate good players from potential superstars. And here's what should terrify the rest of women's college basketball. Swords is already one of Canada's best players on the national team. She was on the Olympic roster as a high school student. Didn't play much, obviously, but the fact that she was there tells you everything about her trajectory. When you ask who the best scorer on the Canadian national team is going to be in 2 years, the answer is probably Silas Sword.
This might actually be the closest thing we've seen to it. And she could be, like, if there's anyone that's going to be the next Caitlin Clark, they have to be good. So your Kiyomi McMillers of the world aren't really these microwave scorers. And Silas Swords has already been really good for the Canadian national team. She's been a really good player for the senior Canada national team. She's already one of their best players. She's probably, if you're asking me who's the best scorer on the Canadian national team, it's going to be, like, very soon it's going to be Silas Swords. She was on the Olympic team, didn't play much. Obviously, she was a high school student. But, like, she is genuinely the close.
Now let's talk about what this means for the 2028 draft class, because this is where it gets really interesting. Everyone remembers how stacked the 2024 class was with Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Cameron Brink. That was supposed to be a generational draft class. But look at who's coming in. You've got Silas Swords doing this. You've got Michaela Blakes, who is an absolute phenom at LSU. Joyce Edwards at South Carolina, though let's be honest, South Carolina's system means she'll never get the general public's attention the way these other players will. And if Juju Watkins decides to stay in college for her senior year, this draft class could legitimately rival or even surpass what we saw in 2024. The difference is visibility. Iowa with Caitlin Clark became must-watch television because of her range and her personality and the way she played. South Carolina wins championships, but they do it with suffocating defense and balanced scoring. That's not what captures casual fans. But Michigan with Swords and Olivia Olson, that could be the most watchable team in women's college basketball this season.
Like, I'm trying to think of teams that I really liked watching last year. I really liked watching that Notre Dame team because it was stacked. And this year it doesn't feel like anyone's stacked. It feels like UConn have taken a step back, but they're still better. Like, it feels like they're worse than last year, but they're still better, if you get me. So, or they're still, better in comparison. I just don't feel like there's a Juju, Kiki Riafen, Kaylee Heckel, Avery Howell, Rhea Marshall team just sitting there. Like, I think Iowa losing Lucy Olson's huge, but yeah, Iowa might make the Elite Eight this year. They might fuck about make the Elite Eight. So yeah, it's an interesting one.
Think about the teams people actually wanted to watch last year. Notre Dame had a stacked roster and played an entertaining style. USC obviously had Juju. Iowa had Lucy Olson trying to fill impossible shoes. But this year feels different. It feels like the talent has spread out more evenly, but also like there's no single dominant team that's clearly better than everyone else. That creates opportunity. Opportunity for a player like Swords to step into that spotlight and claim it. She's not just a volume scorer jacking up shots on a bad team. She's playing alongside Olivia Olson, who you could argue is the better overall player. More consistent, more well-rounded, maybe more valuable to Michigan's success. But Olson doesn't have this. She doesn't have the ability to take over a game in the final 3 minutes against a top-5 program and make you believe the impossible is about to happen. That's what separates good players from stars. That's what separated Caitlin Clark from everyone else in her class. And that's what Silas Swords just showed she had.
I'm very, very impressed with how Silas Swords has been doing. And I've been impressed. If you guys have been looking at this channel, I've been impressed with Silas Swords like since her first game. I've been really impressed with her since her first game. Because I was kind of keeping an eye out for her because I watched the Olympics and just saw they were like, everyone's talking about this high school player being on the Canadian team. And I was like, shit, like, it doesn't, I wouldn't, I'm surprised about that. And she's been as good as advertised. And not only that, again, it's not like Michigan are just Silas Swords either. You've got Olivia Olsen, who you can make the argument is better. Not as fun to watch and not as capable of doing shit like this. But like, you can definitely argue is a better player. So anyway, yeah, that is pretty much it, lads.
Here's the thing about star-making performances. They don't always happen in wins. In fact, some of the most memorable ones happen in losses, because that's when you see a player's true character, when the game is slipping away and they refuse to let it go without a fight, when they elevate beyond what should be possible given the circumstances. Caitlin Clark's Michigan game was a loss, but it's the game people remember when they talk about when they first realized she was different. It's the game that gets referenced in highlight packages and career retrospectives. The result didn't matter as much as what she revealed about herself in those moments. Silas Swords just had her version of that game, down big against UConn, wearing a face mask that would give most players an excuse to have an off night, and she nearly pulled off a miracle. The fact that Michigan ultimately lost doesn't diminish what she accomplished. If anything, it makes it more impressive because she didn't have the supporting cast to finish what she started. Now the question becomes, can she sustain this? Can she build on this performance and turn it into a season-long statement? Because that's the difference between a moment and a movement. Caitlin Clark had that Michigan game and then proceeded to dominate for the next 2 years, eventually breaking the NCAA scoring record and becoming the biggest star women's college basketball has ever seen. Swords has the talent, she has the moment, she has the platform at Michigan with national television games and a spotlight that South Carolina players will never get. She has Olivia Olsen taking some of the defensive pressure off her. She has a Canadian national team pedigree that gives her international credibility. What she needs now is consistency. She needs to show that the UConn game wasn't a fluke or an outlier. She needs to prove that when the bright lights come on and the stakes are highest, she's the player you want with the ball in her hand. And based on what we just watched, based on how calm she looked pulling up from 30 feet with the game on the line, I think she's ready for that challenge. The 2028 WNBA draft is still 4 years away. That feels like forever in sports time. But remember, we're watching these players develop in real time. We're seeing the moments that will define their careers before they even know that's what's happening. Caitlin Clark probably didn't realize that Michigan game would become legendary. She was just trying to win. Silas Swords probably doesn't realize yet that this UConn performance might be the one people reference when they talk about when she became a star. She was just trying to complete an impossible comeback. But that's how these things work. The moments choose you as much as you choose them. So here's what I'm watching for the rest of this season. Can Michigan become a legitimate contender with Swords and Olsen leading the way? Can Swords maintain this level of fearlessness and shot-making against elite competition? And most importantly, can she handle the pressure that comes with being called the next Caitlin Clark? Because that's a burden as much as it's a compliment. There will probably only ever be one Caitlin Clark. The circumstances that created her stardom, the perfect storm of talent and timing and personality and platform, that's not something you can replicate. But if anyone has a chance to capture even a fraction of that magic, to become the player that casual fans tune in specifically to watch, it might be Silas Swords. That UConn game was just the beginning. The real test starts now. Can she handle the expectation? Can she deliver when everyone's watching specifically to see if she's the real deal? Can she